Two people get the same job offer, same title, same company, same paycheck, down to the dollar. They start on the same Monday. They sit in the same orientation. For the first few years, their lives even look similar from the outside. 10 years later, one of them owns a home outright and has 6 figures invested. The other is still living paycheck to paycheck, juggling credit card minimums, and quietly dreading the next unexpected bill. Same income the entire time. So what happened? It wasn't luck. It wasn't a secret stock tip nobody else got. It wasn't even intelligence, or work ethic, or ambition. It was something quieter than all of that. Something working in the background every single week, whether either of them noticed it or not. Here's what's actually happening. Your salary is not your wealth. Your salary is just the raw material. What turns that raw material into wealth, or lets it evaporate, is a set of invisible decisions your brain makes automatically, long before you consciously decide anything. Let's start with the paycheck itself. The moment it hits your account, your brain does something economists call mental accounting. Behavioral economist Richard Thaler described this in detail. Your brain doesn't treat all dollars the same. A dollar earmarked as spending money feels different from a dollar sitting in a savings account, even though both are exactly $1. Thaler's research showed that people will spend a bonus check almost like it's not real money, while treating a paycheck slightly more carefully. This single mental shortcut explains an enormous amount of what separates two people on identical salaries. Person A gets paid. Before they even think about it, a portion moves automatically into savings and investments. It never sits in their checking account long enough to feel like spending money. Person B gets paid. The full amount sits in checking, feels available, and slowly gets absorbed into daily spending. Same dollars, completely different mental category. Notice what's happening here. Neither person made a dramatic decision. Neither one sat down and said, "I'm going to be careful with money," or "I'm going to be careless with money." The split happened upstream of any conscious choice. In the split second, the money arrived and got sorted into a mental bucket. That's the part almost nobody talks about. Financial outcomes aren't usually decided in big, obvious moments. They're decided in small, invisible ones, repeated so often that they stop feeling like decisions at all. Now here's where it gets more interesting. There's a concept in psychology called lifestyle creep. Have you noticed how a raise almost never feels like extra money for long? You get a raise, and within a few months, your spending has quietly expanded to match it. A slightly nicer apartment, a slightly nicer car payment, more frequent takeout. None of it feels reckless in the moment. Each purchase feels reasonable on its own. Here's the trap. Every single one of those upgrades gets justified individually. I earned this. I deserve this. It's just one small change. And each one, taken alone, is true. The apartment really is nicer. The car really is more comfortable. But add them together over 5 years, and the raise that was supposed to build your future has instead built a slightly more expensive version of your present, with nothing left over at the end of the month. The person on the other side of this, earning the exact same new salary, simply let the raise pass through untouched and redirected it before it had a chance to attach itself to a new habit. This is not a willpower failure. It's a documented pattern. Researchers Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent years studying actual millionaires in the United States for their landmark research published as the Millionaire Next Door. What they found surprised almost everyone. Most self-made millionaires did not have especially high incomes. Many lived in modest homes, drove older cars, and were, by outward appearance, unremarkable. Meanwhile, many people with much higher incomes had almost no net worth at all, because their spending rose in exact proportion to their paycheck. Stanley and Danko found that net worth had far less to do with income than with one specific behavior: what percentage of income a person consistently kept, rather than spent. Two people earning the same salary, following two different percentages, produced two wildly different financial futures.
Not because one of them earns more, because one of them keeps more. But there's something even deeper running underneath this. Something psychologist Kahneman's research helps explain. Kahneman, along with his colleague Amos Tversky, documented what's called present bias, part of their broader work on prospect theory. Human brains are wired to weigh immediate rewards far more heavily than future ones, even when the future reward is objectively larger.
$1 spent today feels real. $1 invested for retirement in 30 years feels almost abstract, like it belongs to a stranger you haven't met yet. This is why one person can look at their future self and easily choose to invest, while another person, equally intelligent, equally disciplined in other areas of life, simply can't make that same trade in the moment. It's not a character flaw. It's how human brains evolved, long before retirement accounts existed. Some researchers describe this as struggling to connect with your future self, almost as if that future person were a stranger. And in a sense, they are. You've never met the version of you who's 65. You have no memories with them, no relationship to protect. So when today's version of you is deciding between investing $100 or spending it on something enjoyable right now, the future version doesn't get an equal vote. This bias affects everyone. The difference between two people on the same salary isn't whether they feel this pull, because everyone feels it. The difference is whether their system is built to work around it. So what does this actually look like, week to week? Person A automates their savings the day the paycheck arrives, so the decision only has to be made once, not 52 times a year. Person B relies on willpower every single week, which means the decision has to be won again and again, and willpower is a finite resource that gets weaker under stress, fatigue, or a hard day at work. Person A treats debt differently too. When an unexpected expense hits, they have a buffer, so they don't need to reach for a credit card. Person B, without that buffer, puts it on a card, and now a portion of every future paycheck is already spoken for before it even arrives, going toward interest instead of savings. This is where the gap starts to compound, and compounding cuts both ways. Compound interest simply means your money earns returns, and then those returns start earning returns of their own. Over decades, this creates enormous growth from small, consistent amounts. But the exact same mechanism works in reverse with debt. Interest on a balance compounds too, quietly growing what you owe even while you're making payments. Two people, same salary, one riding compounding upward, one fighting it downward. Think about what a minimum payment actually does. It's designed, structurally, to cover the interest first and barely touch the original balance. Person B pays every month, feels responsible for paying every month, and yet the balance barely moves. That's not a lack of effort. That's the mechanism working exactly as it's built to work. Meanwhile, Person A's investment account is doing the mirror image, generating a small return, then generating a return on that return, month after month, without any extra effort required at all. Same financial mechanism. Two opposite directions. Here's a number worth sitting with. Someone who invests just a few $100s a month starting in their 20s and lets it grow untouched for 30 years can end up with dramatically more than someone who starts investing the same amount a decade later, even if the second person eventually invests more total money. Time in the market does more work than almost any other single factor. And time is the one resource that a higher salary cannot buy back once it's gone. None of this means income doesn't matter. Of course it matters. A higher salary gives you more raw material to work with, and that's real. But income is the input. What happens after the input arrives? That's where two identical salaries turn into two completely different financial lives. You've probably known someone who earned an impressive salary and still felt broke, and someone else who earned far less and somehow always seemed calm about money. Income explains far less of that difference than most people assume. What explains it is the system each person built, consciously or not, around the money the moment it showed up. And this cuts in a hopeful direction too. If two people can start with the same salary and end up in different places purely because of habits and structure, then the reverse is also true. You don't need a bigger paycheck to change your trajectory. You need to change what happens in the moment your current paycheck lands, before your brain has a chance to quietly file it away as ordinary spending money. There's one more piece worth understanding: visibility. Person A's wealth is often invisible day to day. It's sitting quietly in a retirement account, growing without any dramatic events, without anything to show off. Person B's spending is often highly visible: new clothes, new gadgets, a nicer car in the driveway. Ironically, the person who looks wealthier in daily life is frequently the one with the smaller net worth, while the person whose finances look boring on the surface is the one quietly building real, lasting wealth. Stanley and Danko documented exactly this pattern across hundreds of interviews with actual American millionaires. This creates a strange social illusion. If you only judge wealth by what you can see, you'll consistently get it backwards. The coworker with the newest car might be leasing it with almost nothing left over each month. The coworker who drives the same reliable car for 12 years might be the one with a paid-off house and a growing brokerage account. You're not actually comparing wealth when you compare appearances. You're comparing spending, which tells you almost nothing about what's happening underneath. Consider how small the actual difference often is at the start. It might be a single automated transfer set up in year one. It might be waiting 24 hours before a non-essential purchase instead of buying at the moment the urge hits. It might be treating a raise as if it never happened for the first few months, redirecting it before it can attach itself to a new lifestyle. None of these decisions feel significant in the moment they're made. That's exactly why they work. They don't rely on willpower holding up under pressure, because they've already been made in advance. So if two people can start with the exact same paycheck and end up in two completely different financial realities, what does that actually mean for you? It means the paycheck was never the deciding factor. The deciding factor was a handful of automatic, largely invisible habits, repeated every single week, quietly compounding in one direction or the other. It means the version of you 5 years from now is being shaped less by how much you earn this year, and more by what you do with each paycheck the moment it lands. 10 years later, one of them owns their home outright and has 6 figures invested. The other is still living paycheck to paycheck. Same salary the whole time. Different decisions, made automatically, week after week, is what actually decided who became who.